Let's dive deep into the world of Wayne Shorter with his tune House of Jade. Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com. Thanks for being here for our journey through the real book number 152. 152nd song in the book, going in order, one a week. And yeah, this is one of those classic 1960s Wayne Shorter tunes and recordings. It's on Juju with McCoy Tyner on piano that he did for Blue Note Records. And he made a whole string of these. These were not intended for live performance. They were studio dates. And Blue Note had a certain sound, very groove-oriented. And it sort of took Wayne, I view these sort of as, you know, Wayne had, he had come from from Art Blakey's group. And then he transitioned to the classic Miles Davis quintet in the 60s with Herbie Hancock, Tony Williams, and Ron Carter, and of course Miles. And his playing, I wouldn't say his playing changed necessarily, but he was able to develop his playing in a different direction. He still had the same sort of proclivities that he had with Blakey, where, you know, sort of angular phrasing, or sometimes getting very, very pure in his approach. But Blakey sort of, you know, like that sort of hard swinging thing where there was an arc to the solos and everything. When he got with Miles, he didn't have to do that. And sometimes he would go the other way around. He'd start a solo, if you listen to like Live at the Plug Nickel, start a solo really fast. And then he'd get slower as the solo got on until he got to a very pure kind of lyrical way. You know, it's very different than the traditional approach of building to this big arc and coming down. And, you know, Wayne kept with that approach sometimes throughout the rest of his career. I view these Blue Note recordings as sort of in between them both. He would go in either direction. So he would use chord changes that he might use in a tune like this, that he might be similar to what he would use with Miles, like on ESP or some of those other tunes. But then at the same time, went into the kind of groove maybe that Blakey would have had, you know, sort of in between. So House of Jade, one thing I like to do on some of these tunes, it's a sort of a medium swingy ballad. Not that slow, but you can do a slow walking bass on it, and there's a really beautiful groove on the original. But what I like to do is look at some of his later techniques, particularly like his chord voicings, you know, like on even some of his 80s albums that had a little more of an electronic beat, but he had some orchestral stuff going on, like High Life, that album, where he'd have these classical kind of, you know, some... those kind of voicings, like Stravinsky voicings. You know, Wayne grew up, as he talks about in his biography, he grew up listening to monster movie soundtracks. You know, he'd go see the Wolfman or, you know, these Dracula kind of soundtracks, and he loved that. A lot of that stuff was influenced by Stravinsky and Schoenberg and those contemporary classical composers, Bartók. So he took that away, and it came back into his music more and more over time. The So What voicing, played by Gil Evans on the tune So What on Miles is Kind of Blue. The voicing, I think, might have been created by Gil Evans. You know, he did the intro for that. He wrote the intro to, Gil Evans, the arranger, wrote the intro to So What. And I think he might have came up with that voicing. Gil Evans was a fan of the guitar, and these are the strings of the guitar, except for the high E. Then you just playing it down by a step. So you can harmonize melodies like this. You know, work your way down. You know? Sounds pretty good. And it's basically what Shorter does, that kind of thing, a lot. Or you could mix it up. You could start like that, and then start doing what I did before. Keith Jarrett with these voicings. I'm going to start like that and just see where it takes me. It's an A-B-A form. Shorter liked coming up with his own forms, not just A-A-B-A like a lot of other people were writing at the time. It's a classic song form. And the bridge is very different than the A section. The A section has a lot of chromatic harmony, going down by steps, up by steps to unrelated chords. And the bridge is basically just two chords for most of it. And then at the end, sort of a 2-5-1 to D. It's really 2 flat 2, which is a tritone substitution, to D. So he's balancing unconventional with conventional, not knowing where we are harmonically with, okay, now we're going back to D, and then surprising you with a flat 5 there. The bridge kind of sounds like Stravinsky. You know, if you had that as an orchestral thing. Something from Petrushka or the Firebird, maybe even the Rite of Spring, something like that. So I'm going to draw from all those things and then see when it wants to go into a groove like on the recording. Here we go. I'm going to start with some of those voicings. think that Stravinsky influence I talked about earlier came back at the end with that sort of just, you know, it's almost like the opening of the Rite of Spring. You know, the sort of a plaintive kind of woodwind instrument, English horn, what is that, bassoon there? Sort of an oboe or flute up there or something like that. Lots of influences in Wayne Shorter's music that we can draw upon, not just saying, okay, this is how the tune was on the Blue Note recording, I'm going to play it like that. So check it out. If you never played it before, just go slowly, get to know the chord progression really well so you can start to hear it and predict where it's going. And then have fun playing the tune and making it your own, improvising on it. Make sure you listen to really the whole album, Juju. It's wonderful. What Yes and No is on that. It's one of the quartet albums that Wayne Shorter did. There's no other horn player on it, and I particularly love those albums. Juju, etc. I think Adam's Apple is another one. So enjoy. Good luck with your playing. If you're interested in Skype lessons, one-on-one, or video course, keyboardimprov.com. You can check that out too. Appreciate your support, and anything I can do to help you learn piano, let me know. Take care.